Now I'm very excited to welcome back one of the best cappers that I know, and Mr. Will Hill from Bear Bets, VSIN, and the Sure to Bet More podcast. You can follow Will on X at not the Will Hill. And here we are, Will. Season's almost over. You know, that kind of means it's about spring when that happens. When college basketball ends, spring is here. How are things on the East Coast?
All is well, man. Getting a little warmer out here. Yeah, college basketball gives way nicely to baseball and Masters, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Before you know it, it's summer, and we kind of start the whole cycle over again with football. So not a bad time of the year at all.
We sure do, and football never dies. It kind of dies until now for me. I just did my Pythagorean stuff. I'm going to get that up shortly on the website, and finally starting to look into that, But, there's baseball here, and I'm betting baseball. I'm having a little fun with it. And watching the Cubs game right now against the Angels. Looks like the Angels put up 2. Maybe save opportunity coming up. But here we are. We are in the end of the Final Four. But before, actually, I do want to talk a little bit about baseball. Will, you're a baseball savant, and I want to know your thoughts on the ABS strike zone and the ability to challenge those calls.
The more you can get it right, the better. I'm sure you can relate to this as a better. It's okay to lose it's more palatable to lose a bet when you're just on the wrong side of it, especially baseball, like you're betting props. Man, it's hard. You get a K prop nailed and you lose it because of the umpire. Those are hard to take when you get those stolen from you. So the more we can get right, the better. We're going in that direction. I wonder, 5, 10, 20 years from now, is it just the machine calling all the balls and strikes? I'm not sure, but it's a step in the right direction. There's still missing calls. You can still only call so many. But as opposed to the other sports, and we complain about this all the time, especially in basketball, college basketball, even the NBA, the challenges take forever. They kill the flow of the game. This is so quick. It's so seamless. The tap of the helmet. And I think the one thing I didn't realize, there is a fan entertainment aspect of this where you're in these fans that are in the ballpark seem to really get a kick out of it. The drama of, all right, is a challenge. Let's see. Is it on the zone? Is it out of the zone? And then when the umpire's wrong, they can all cheer and they can all ride them. So I think it's been great. I'm sure it'll continue to be honed in terms of, how many you can do and how much the computer's involved. But I think this is a good change. For as much crap as Rob Manfred gets, and a lot of it I think is probably fair. He's had some good ideas here. The pitch clock speeds up these games. It's almost to the point where you go to a game, it almost goes by too quickly. But watching at home, it's better. And which I wasn't sure it was going to be. This ABS is better. So I think the game in general is going in the right direction. This is one of the reasons why.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, or maybe since the wheel invention. I love it. I absolutely freaking love it. I don't know if you remember, I sent you guys a shot when I was at that Rockies Cubs game. That inning, when I sent you that picture, there was 3 challenges that were overturned, and it took seconds, and it was like literally 3 in one inning. I'm like, oh my God, imagine getting this stuff right. And the umps have always had their attitudes, and everyone, and I agree. I think that, you get a little smugness to it. And now you actually get fairness in a game. Are you kidding me? I mean, of all I've ever complained about Rob Manfred, the dude is completely redeeming himself to me. Like golf, where it's actually the player deciding if he's going to win. You're taking away all the variance that we deal with as bettors. You can actually use numbers now. I love that. And that's part of the reason I wanted to get into sports betting when I was young, because I just felt like I was really good with statistics. And now you actually can use them and get rid of the negativity that comes from all of that. And seeing the replays in it, always, you swallow your throat, you go gulp, right? You're like, what happened here? Why is it like that? And now you really know that they're trying to make a game better. And I think that football and basketball has a lot to learn from doing this, because you know what? Their challenges take forever, and I do not understand it, because I can see it in 2 seconds and say it when I'm watching it on TV.
Yeah, they tried the whole Hawkeye thing with football, but it was not well executed. It was still a human being spotting the ball, which is the whole flaw with the inaccuracies, the imperfection of spotting the ball starts with the official. So you can do the Hawkeye stuff all you want with football, unless you're like just taking it a step further and really marking where the ball is and then measuring it. If you have the human being, the 50, 60-year-old ref spotting the ball with his eyes and just kind of guesstimating, you're always going to get some inaccuracies. But I agree, these other sports have a lot to learn from baseball on this.
Absolutely. The Hawkeye thing was the only one, one of the few things. If you can just improve it by 80%, 85%, that'd be great. Especially when it comes to the, pass interference, things like that we deal with. That would be wonderful. And I think that, just even watching in last year's playoffs, you've seen calls that could have been certainly done correctly. So yeah, I love it. It makes me love baseball more. Let's get into some college hoops, man. Final Four. Why don't we start with some UConn hosting Illinois? UConn +2 total 139.5. And I have to mention that, Will, on this show, you told us a while back that you're grabbing UConn. What was it, 15-1? It was a really good number. I only have a little Illinois left. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot burned. So if I hedge Illinois, I'll probably be down in general in futures, because I had an Iowa State. I probably had an Alabama and stuff like that. But, it's great that you're holding on to a ticket like that.
Yeah, happy to have it alive. Lucky to have it alive. Bet it 15-1 before the season, and that was my only futures bet in college basketball. And I made the point a few times throughout the year. Wow, you could still get them 15-1. There's value on that. That being said, 35-1 before the tournament. Damn, 15-1 before the Elite Eight. So on one hand, happy and lucky to have it alive. On the other hand, if you told me before the season, hey, they're going to be in the Final Four, I would have said, great. It'll be like the last two times they were in the Final Four. I can get points the other way. I can go for a middle. I'll be in a great spot to hedge. I'm a 2-point dog, and then I'll be like a 5 or a 6-point dog. It's really not that easy hedging. It reminds me a little bit, and I hate to bring it up, having Miami to win it all, and then you get in the national title game, you figure, all right, man, I got some great numbers on Miami. And then you get there, and you're like, man, do I really want to hedge -330 the other way, or should I just let it play out? So I'm having a little deja vu with that. Hopefully this works a little bit better than that. I think if I got to the title game, I would hedge. People ask all the time. I'm sure you get these questions too. Hey, how should I hedge? What should I hedge? That's a very personal question. How much did you bet? How much does the money mean to you? What side you like? There's so many moving parts to that. And maybe if anything, I'll put a small bet on Illinois money line to just cover myself. But I mean, you know how this is with these futures. You start giving it away, your profit 2 games ahead of time, then you win, then you're down that money, and you got to make up all that money plus the -230 in the title game. But it's a good position to be in. Lucky to have it after the way that game ended. But we'll see if we can get one home here with the Huskies.
Absolutely, man. I feel you, because like a lot of times you make multiple futures bets. I'm so glad you only had one. It's not like for me. You hope that like Illinois is playing Iowa State, because I have both. Hope it's Alabama. You hope. And this is way back, before the season, the regular season, I should say, the conference season should start in January. It's like, and then you're here, you're stuck with one ticket and say yes. On Michigan, or lay -250 on Arizona, and then I can get my money back. Well, if I get my money back and I'm laying money on the other side, I'm probably a loser when it comes to my total bets. I'm glad I did hit some in the Final Four at 4-1. So I always bet a little Final Four as well. So that worked out a little bit, but I'm going to have if Illinois wins, I'm definitely going to have a decision on my hands. And that's what makes it personal. You don't know how many bets someone made. If they made one bet, yeah, maybe hedge it, but that's completely up to that person and the bet size and how much the money completely means to them. What about the game, man? Do you think UConn wins it?
I see the advantages for Illinois. I get it. I kind of dismissed the game on Black Friday back in November just because both teams were banged up. Wagler wasn't really a factor yet for Illinois. These are different versions of that team, but I see the advantages for Illinois. They've been really good. I think I saw the stat since December 1st. They only have one loss that was not in overtime, and that was to Michigan. Everything else has been to tournament teams, all in overtime games. This is a really good, legitimate Illinois team. They don't turn the ball over. They've got size. They can switch. They got a lot of things that check boxes. And maybe this is an overly simplistic handicap here. It just feels a little bit like going against the Chiefs in basketball at this point with Hurley and UConn. Do you really want to take your wallet out and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bet my money against Danny Hurley in the tournament. Plus, I'm going to lay a couple of points on top of it. To me, when in doubt, go with Hurley. You're getting a couple points. I thought this would be closer to a pick 'em. I know the UConn road hasn't been here. The UConn road here hasn't been clean, hasn't been pretty. Didn't cover against Furman. UCLA was shorthanded. Should have lost to Duke. Michigan State, they blew a big lead. So it's not like they've been dominating these teams. It's not the team of 3 or 4 years ago or 2 or 3 years ago when they went back to back and they were destroying everybody. But I'm just in the when in doubt, give me Hurley camp. And I like UConn in the game.
And to be honest with you, like I always say, if you just bet coaches, you're probably a winning better. I can't disagree with that. I do like Illinois, but I don't like them anything under 2. I think you need 2 because 2.5, you get to Foul City with 3 points. You know what happens. You don't want to do that. You want to lay 2 or less or money line. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely lose this one. I know that Illinois does have an advantage. They don't foul a lot. They rank number 1 in that category, and opponent
don't
free
turn it
throw
over.
percentage. They don't turn it over. They don't get turnovers, but they don't turn it over. But they do get the rebounding better than UConn. But hey, you're looking at a coach here, and Brad Underwood has kind of somewhat failed in these situations in the past. Now Illinois is a lot taller, and they shoot extremely well. I don't think it's their best shooting team, but slight advantage for Illinois there. But yeah, I get it, man. It is weird to see a 3 seed in the Florida bracket too. A favorite over a name like UConn after they take out the number 1 team, it is kind of weird. But at the same time, I guess you can credit both teams for what they did. Illinois going to Houston and beating them, and then obviously the big comeback against Duke.
Hard to knock a team that's won every game by double digits on their way here, including at Houston, which everyone thought, man, what a showdown this is going to be. Great game. Tough break for Illinois playing in Houston, and they just buried them. That was never really a game. And the Iowa game was closer than the final score indicated. They were losing pretty late in the game. I know as somebody who had Iowa plus the points, and man, it's been tough sledding for these dogs in this tournament. You feel like you have the right side. And I didn't have Purdue, but Purdue a couple hours later, Iowa, both those games on the Elite Eight Saturday where, man, I'm getting 6 or 7 points. I'm up 6 or 7 points. It's the second half. I'm in good shape here betting this underdog. And then the favorite just hits the gas, and it just makes it really, really hard here with some of these underdogs in this tournament.
If UConn loses, does Dan Hurley pull out that big cranium of his and headbutt the referee?
You never know with him. That was strange. Now, here in UConn, you see a lot of people on Twitter, and they always have Connecticut or Huskies or something in their profile. They say, oh, this is a big nothing burger. Why would you even bring this up? I'm not saying it should have been a technical. You have to consider the moment there. It's not during a confrontation. His guy just made a 3. He's leaning in to hear it. So he shouldn't have been teed up. I don't agree. Terry McCauley saying he should have been teed up. It was very strange, though. You can't sit there and tell me that wasn't bizarre. That was a really, really bizarre encounter. He's an odd guy to begin with. He's a quirky guy, and I know him and the ref, have a history and they're buddies and all that stuff. That was strange to say the least. You
should not be buddies with a ref, or that ref should not be at a game if they're buddies.
I agree.
That is absolutely asinine. That just blows my mind that we even have to mention that. But here it is. Either way, it was very strange, and I almost it looked intimate in a way. It's not like he started talking when he put his head down. I just did not understand it whatsoever, my friend. We're gonna be talking about that one for a while. But Michigan versus Arizona plus 1.5, total 157.5. And Will, I'll just tell you my handicap right now. If they played 1,000 times, one would win 500. So I honestly don't have a side in this. I think that if you get plus money on one side, like it's kind of inching towards, maybe that's a good play. I don't know.
I said the same thing. I said if they play 10 times, each would win 5. I predicted a tie in this game. Nobody will win. They will play for eternity, and they will just continue to go overtime upon overtime. I guess if you think they're dead even, which I do, slight lean towards Arizona. That's how I picked it before the tournament, Arizona over Michigan. I actually got 3 out of the Final 4. Not that that's some great accomplishment with how chalky it was. I guess you take the 1.5 with Arizona. I feel like they're maybe a touch. I don't even want to say better, but just more bulletproof in terms of like having a bad game, just because they don't shoot a lot of threes. Now, the 3-point rate, you can use that against them too, but I don't know. In these big cavernous arenas, it's hard to shoot the 3 well. They're so good inside. They're so thick and they're like football players. The size of these guys,
huge
to me. I mean, anybody's game, 2 or 3 minutes to go. Like you said, if they played 1,000 times, 100 times, it'd probably be 50-50. When in doubt, take the 1.5. But we're at the point of the season. These games are like NFL games. There's so many eyeballs on them. The market is so sharp. This is not like December when you're betting Merrimack versus Fairfield and a line or a total might be off by 2 or 3 points. There's a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs on these games. We have a lot of information on these teams, so you're not going to get wildly off numbers. But I went with Arizona, so I'm sticking with that, and could set up a rematch of a game I was at in November, Arizona and UConn. And people, if that's the matchup, I think a lot of people will pencil in Arizona as the champion. But
was that at the Garden?
No, it was at Stores. It was at UConn.
Okay.
Which, take that into account. Arizona was a road game, but there was no Mullins, there was no Reed, and UConn had a lead very late in that game and only lost by 4. So this idea that, UConn has no shot if they play Arizona, I'm not sure I buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't buy that either. I picked Arizona in my bracket, but now this is in Big Ten country in Indianapolis. But then the other part of that is Michigan played bad there. They almost lost to Wisconsin, needed a buzzer beater, and they lost bad to Purdue there. I don't. It's hard to figure out that aspect of it too. I've seen both teams choke. I mean, very very seldomly. It's like them and Duke. These two teams in Duke choked the least. And Will, when you were on this show, January, February, we always said we'd take Michigan, Arizona, and Duke against the field, and here we are. It's really looking that way. I kind of like the over, and the reason that is both teams are going to play fast. I think they're going to. I know that you're looking at like the top two defenses in the league, but these offenses are just so good and they play so fast. And of course, you're going to need some foul calls. It's not a championship game. You know, you always never bet overs in championship games. A Final Four game, you can. I think that takes that element out of there. You know, and I just see a lot of pace in this game, and there's just a lot of ways it could happen. Could go overtime. Could be a foul city where one's down 7 and just fighting and scrapping at the end. And I think that, Michigan ranking 14th in average possession length, that's 14 out of 365 teams. That's pretty fast. And Arizona at 50th. And I think these guys would play faster if they weren't running clock, at the end of the games. I just think, I'm going to see a lot of running. I hate playing overs in big games, but that's the only side that I kind of got to, Will.
And it's really hard to imagine one of these teams is not going to be playing for the national championship. That's how good these teams are, where you think one of these teams is not even going to be a national finalist. It's almost cruel. You can go back and look, should the bracket have been seeded differently? Did Duke really deserve number 1 overall? I mean, you're going to probably have to run into each other at some point anyway. I thought Arizona had a case for the 1 seed, but I get why they gave it to Duke, especially with the head-to-head over Michigan, even though Duke was banged up. But boy, what a hell of a game this is going to be.
All right, I agree. And Pete, right from Perry High School down the road here for Arizona, there is going to need a big game. But like you said, they look like football players. These guys played football in high school. These guys are so wide. They're just fantastic athletes. So what do you think about this? You're looking at a finals game between, Illinois, Arizona, Illinois, Michigan is 4.5 to 5.5. And obviously Michigan's a point favorite. So it's kind of the same thing with UConn, Arizona, 5.5. And 6.5 on the other side. I mean, do you see yourself making a bet in this? I mean, I see myself betting an under. It would be a last minute play probably. But that's just how championship games are.
If UConn gets to the title game and wins again after winning again against Duke, there will start to be that Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs effect. And I'm surprised it hasn't hit yet. Maybe by Saturday it will. Maybe these twos that are here now will be pick'ems by Saturday. That would not surprise me either in terms of UConn, Illinois. I think there will be an element of UConn's not going to lose. UConn can't lose. They never lose to the Final Four. You hear all these stats about when they get to the Final Four in program history or the Sweet 16 in program history, how well they do, how well Hurley does after the round of 16. All of that will sink in for a day or two, and they'll have another tournament win over their belt, another standalone game, and I think that line will come down a little bit. Whether that's fair or not, whether that's good reason or not, that's the one thing I would think projecting ahead, that if UConn, well, obviously, if whoever wins out of Michigan, Arizona, you bump them up too. But I think there will be a perception with UConn of they will be a very live and very public dog if they are playing Monday night.
I guess so. In Caravan is that one guy that's just been there, but they just do not have the shooting to me. I would lay it with Michigan or Arizona against UConn. And I probably would lay it against Illinois, to be honest with you. I probably would lay it in both situations. Go ahead.
Here's one thing, though. I mean, keep this in mind. I mean, I don't really disagree with what you're saying. I'm just trying to think of like where the number will go more than an actual, like, what am I going to bet? Because I'm really kind of jaded by UConn future and how to hedge that and stuff. But I do think that's where the number would go. But is there anything to this? And I think it was a factor last year a little bit. Florida played first. They won. Houston played a grinder of a game second. All right, it's 3 hours, 4 hours difference of rest. But with a short turnaround, if you're in this absolute war of a game, Arizona versus Michigan, and you got 3 hours fewer rest, and whoever wins UConn, Illinois, they go back to the hotel, they get a meal in them, they get off their feet, they can rest, they can relax. Meanwhile, these other teams are playing to the death. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona, Michigan went down to the wire, went to overtime. Maybe those few hours extra rest. I'm not saying you make your handicap on it. I would just say take it into account. I remember thinking that last year, Florida versus Houston, and Houston kind of wilted down the stretch. Just something to keep in mind.
Saw it with when undefeated Kentucky lost to Wisconsin. Wisconsin lost in the finals. A little bit extracurricular activities there, but that's all I'm going to say. It's the same situation, and yeah, I believe you. I think you're absolutely 100% right that this happens quite often. It's just such a heart pulling game and just a mentally fatiguing game, including physically, of course. That it's just a letdown spot in a way, and I almost feel like maybe you're getting that with UConn against Illinois, I guess. And that's part of my thought process. But like you said, if UConn gets through there, it's Mahomes. Yeah, start thinking Mahomes, man. Like it's like they're just gonna will themselves to win.
Yeah, and the more we talk about it, the more I'm excited to actually see these games come this weekend.
It's so funny. It's like I'm not even sure if I should even think of hedging my Illinois because it's like if I did lay the points against Illinois, there's literally a Polish middle right there, about 5 points. That could actually burn both of them. So it's you try to separate your futures from what and how you're going to make your plays, and that's sometimes the toughest thing when it comes to sports betting. Let's move on to the next subject here. Like we said, NFL, it really never sleeps. The NFL draft is coming up, Will. It's I made a play, and I'll just tell you what it is. For the second pick of the draft, I picked the guy from I bet the guy from Miami 40-1. It's was it Bain? What's his name?
Yes,
I gotta pull it up here. And he unfortunately it was a better number than you get now, but the measurables on this guy is terrible. It's like you look at like the hand size, the arm size, a couple speed factors. It's really bad, and that's why teams don't necessarily look for the production that he had in Miami. They might look at obviously what he did at the combine, measurables, what he opted out of, and things like that, and that's why he's not the favorite for number 2 pick in the NFL draft. But is it? Do you have anything in the draft? Anything to say? Is Mendoza for sure number 1 pick?
Oh yeah, I would be shocked. I would lay whatever on Mendoza. This is dangerous. I know the odds are ridiculous, even if it's offered. And I'm not saying overbet your bankroll. I'm just saying if let's just say you bet $100 a game. If you put $100 on Mendoza to win whatever, you win back. If you get rewards points based on the dollar amount wagered, that might be worth it. Other than that, it's obviously probably not worth it. But barring him getting kidnapped or something tragic happening, seems like he's going to be the first pick. I'm with you. I like Bain. I bet Bain, I think at like 10-1. That's the only bet I made. Very, very small bet, just because he's just so good. And who knows? It's the Jets. Do the measurables matter? Yeah, they matter. But we watched this guy dominate in the college football playoff and almost lead his team to the title. I just thought that number was a little bit long. I thought it was more of a coin flip between him and the other 2 pass rushers. And again, it's the Jets. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? And wouldn't there be a little bit of poetic justice? All these years later, the Jets famously passed on the Miami interior defensive lineman in Warren Sapp, and they got booed because they took Kyle Brady. And all these years later, 3 decades later, whatever, they end up taking the Miami defensive lineman with Bain. So small bet. I will say the draft, I've almost forgotten about it. There is very little buzz. I don't know if it's because the tournament, I think it's more like there's not a lot of quarterbacks involved. We know who's going first. There's not a lot of debate, a lot of controversy. The average fan, unless you're a Jets fan, unless you're betting this stuff, the average fan does not care, whether it's Arnett or Bain. They don't care about which defensive lineman goes second. That falls on deaf ears for a lot of fans. So I just think maybe the lack of quarterbacks is the reason. There just seems to be a real lack of juice in this draft.
God, there does. Absolutely. You had Travis Hunter, the 2-way player last year. You had Deion Sanders' kid. There's
right.
Buzz because of that, even though not necessarily the best prospect right there. And we didn't have the best quarterback last year. I almost felt like we were like, wait till this year, we're going to get quarterbacks. And I don't know, man. Yeah, we really didn't. And, now you have to wonder if any of these quarterbacks are going to turn out. I do get a little nervous about Mendoza. Could that just be, Signetti just being a genius coach? Maybe he just kind of turns into normal, after that. That happens all the time, when it comes to the draft. And,
especially playing with a bunch of other NFL guys. You got other NFL talent around you. Not that they had a lot of 5 stars, but you get the idea where it's just, is it really he's that great, or is it And, it's the chicken and the egg. Did Joe Montana make Jerry Rice or vice versa? And obviously the truth is somewhere in between, but he did play up with a bunch of guys that are going to get picked here in the NFL.
Absolutely. And Dante Moore, is returning to Oregon, right? So that's another big hit to the draft, I think, this year.
Sure.
It would have made it more interesting, but it makes me like Oregon definitely a little bit more coming into college football. What's the best way to prepare and try to get ahead of this stuff? Is it following beat writers, doing preparation? What do you think?
All of that works. The stuff, the thing that's made me successful when I've had successful years is just having a lot of books and just being aware when a scoop comes and just line shopping, because some books inevitably will be slower to move. Or like, all right, I remember a couple years ago where it was Jaden Daniels had a visit with Washington, and it got pretty cemented. It seemed pretty cemented that he was going to be the second pick. And then, if you have 7 or 8 books and a couple of them go to minus 500, there's pretty good odds a couple of them are still going to lag behind and be minus 180, minus 200. So it's more just having a lot of books and catching the numbers that are slow and stale to move.
Absolutely. Well, our second pick is, it's cool that we both made it. I didn't even know that. We're going against David Bailey, who had great measurables, and Arvell Reese. So we'll see. We'll see even if the pick could be traded too. We say to trade
Sure.
down. I've said to trade down for the Jets. And
although I don't see a lot of appetite for people to move up in this draft and pick second, you never know. It's the draft. Crazy things happen. We wouldn't have thought last year. At least I wouldn't have. The Hunter trade happened, and that really kind of threw the draft for a curveball. But I just don't know everything it takes with like the draft chart and everything to move up to get the second pick. I'm not sure that there's the appetite this year to do so.
Agreed. Well, we'll get more into the draft as time moves on. How about the NFL in general? Did you make any plays for early futures? I know they have to hold on to our money for a while, but sometimes that's how it is when you have to find value.
Jets, I think, are going to be pretty bad. What's their number? 5.5. I mean, I know that's low. I know there's probably some turnover aggression coming. They didn't get any interceptions last year, which is still just like the most amazing stat of all time, that you could play 17 games and not get an interception. For all those people that think this week this is due or this week that's due, nothing's ever due. It's the due is a dangerous word in betting. But Jets 5.5 seems a touch high. I think Cleveland was 6.5. That one seems a little high. And I'm usually not optimistic on my Minnesota Vikings, because throughout my life, they give me very little reason to be optimistic. I actually think Minnesota with Murray, I know he's small, he's got to stay healthy, all of those things. He's got a lot of talent around him where he doesn't have to carry the team. The team can carry him. If he gets banged up, you got McCarthy, who was actually okay at the end of the year last year. I think Minnesota played well at the end of the season last year. And they kept Flores as a defensive coordinator here. I think Minnesota can bounce back with a double-digit win season. I like the Vikings over.
It's funny. I did my Pythag, and I always factor in turnovers too. And the NFC North finished backwards according to Pythag. Detroit had 9.96 wins. The Vikings had 9.37 wins. The Packers had 9.31 wins, and the Bears had 8.04 wins. The biggest difference between actual wins and Pythagorean wins from an overachieving perspective was the Bears. I kind of expected that coming, but if I bet against the Bears, I'm betting against the coach, and I do like Ben Johnson, so I haven't digested too much of that. One bet that I did make, and we already talked about that, I like the Giants, but I'm taking the under on the Eagles too. I am not a Sirianni guy. I think he kind of got through with great coordinators, and maybe that's part of him and the GM, and maybe some offseason stuff that helped him get that far. But I mean, I don't think the Eagles are going to repeat. And you have to remember that now they have a first place schedule too. And 10.5 wins is just a heck of a lot. And you can get minus 125 now still if you shop around on Eagles under 10.5 wins. It looks like the Eagles are going to have some offensive line woes, some guys retiring, some guys moving on. AJ Brown pissed off, he's going. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with him, but I really don't think he can stay after all the bad blood that's been traded there. It feels like they kind of went into complacency a little bit with their success. And sometimes when that happens, the guys are getting older and they're receiving a paycheck. They're having kids. I mean, 10.5 wins when you're getting Jaden Daniels back for the Washington Commanders. You got a hell of a coach now with the Giants and Harbaugh. And you have the Cowboys, who knows? Yeah, that's the team I'm probably not going to bet for or against, but they do have a good offense. Under 10.5 wins for the Eagles.
I can understand that. Hurts runs, a decent amount, but you can make the case he should run more. And I know that was a point of contention, but the tush push, does that take something out of him? He's always kind of getting not banged up because he plays, but a smaller quarterback in terms of stature that runs a lot, gets hit a lot. I can understand that, which is always an angle too. I mean, that's, we sit here and we talk about these teams all spring and all summer. We don't think about these teams in a version of themselves where, all right, they lost 2 offensive linemen or they lost their quarterback. Like, injuries are going to happen. That's why, if you just had no inclination on a team whatsoever, just when in doubt, bet the under on these teams, I think is a pretty good way to approach them.
I found it interesting that the Dolphins is the lowest at 4.5 wins, that you can get over plus money on the Dolphins. Now, look, I remember how we were so sure about the Saints last year. And if you didn't get that good number at 6.5 before it moved to 5.5, you lost your bet. Four wins is so small, and it's not like the Dolphins aren't playing other bad teams. There's the Browns,
Sure.
I mean, there's the Jets. They're playing twice. I mean, there's just a lot of ways, even without that quarterback Tua, I don't know what they're going to do there. But there's just a lot of ways a good offensive mind like McDaniel can figure out. So I'm looking at that one a little bit too. So I wanted to mention that.
I don't think McDaniel's going to help them too much this year because I think he's the offensive coordinator for the Chargers, but we are all in college basketball mode.
My bad.
So it happens. I did that to you last time, so I thought I'd give you that. And 2 is on the Falcons, but we all have a lot of sports we're keeping track of. So I was going through this with baseball the other day where I can't believe I totally forgot this guy was on that team. So when you're catching up, you're trying to keep up with all these sports, things will fall between the cracks for sure.
Absolutely. It's so funny that I'm just looking down the board and trying to make Jeff Hafley. Jeff Hafley is the coach from the Packers. Well, I mean, it just depends what you think about that. He does have a honeymoon season, but 4.5 is still quite low for me. And yes, certainly still basketball season over here at the Odds Breakers. We will be moving on though to other sports as well, and we got Masters coming up. I did make a bet on the Masters, Will. I want to see what if you like anything for the big, obviously for Augusta next week. It's the biggest. A lot of people call it the biggest tournament. I think it's the biggest tournament because it kind of kicks everything off and the first major. What do you think about the Masters? Anybody that you like?
Golf certainly not my strength, not something I originate, but it's the Masters. I'll have something. I had Mitch Moss on my podcast, should have been more a couple weeks ago, and I'll relay what he said because I thought it was a good angle. Keep an eye on some of the live guys, those guys that are dominating on that tour, because that tournament is, let's be honest, it's out of sight, out of mind. You forget about those guys. So I would say if you're looking at the board here, just keep in mind those live guys, their performance recently, and don't overlook them just because you're probably not keeping up with them on the PGA Tour where they aren't anymore.
100%. I think the live guys are feeling a little disrespected too. So I could see one of them making a charge here. And I'm not a sharp golf bettor at all. I'm just doing this personally. But I grabbed Colin Morikawa at 30-1 this morning, 31-1 actually. And check our friends at FanDuel for those numbers. He actually has the best strokes gained approach to green. And I feel like these greens are so hard. If he can just get it close to the pin and win in the putting because of that approach, maybe he's got a shot there. I know a lot of people like strokes gained tee to green, but when it comes to the Masters, how good these greens are, the closer the better. So, and this is just a very, I would just say, non-sharp public take on it, but I feel like he's kind of in his prime, and I don't like the way Scheffler's been playing lately. I think he's kind of in dad mode himself a little bit, and maybe some of those, some of the success, and obviously some of just being a parent has taken a little bit off his sharpness.
Yep, I definitely think there is a little bit of a human element to that.
Well, I was looking at the other tournament, the Crown tournament, and I got to tell you, I have no plays, man. It's been like a month since these guys played. I have no idea what to expect, and who cares about what with this.
It's really hurt the NIT too, because remember, I used to really like the NIT, and I can remember years ago the NIT used to have a little more gravitas, where it meant something to win the NIT or to go deep in the NIT. It was a springboard for the next season. It was not as, I don't know, just it seems more irrelevant now, and especially now that the best teams don't go. I have a few plays. I had to write something for Fox Sports, so I got into it a little bit just in terms of looking for different handicapping angles. So I'll just go over a couple of them. I laid it with Oklahoma at 9. I think that might have ticked up a half a point or a point.
Okay.
Colorado has none of their guys. Colorado's 3 of their 4 top scorers are not playing. They're in the portal. Oklahoma has their whole team intact. Oklahoma was really surging towards the end of the season. Granted, like you said, it's almost a month ago, but they won 6 out of 7 to end the year. They lost a heartbreaker to Arkansas in the conference tournament. They really came close to getting in the NCAA tournament, but they beat Missouri. They beat Texas. They beat Texas A&M by 20. So I like Oklahoma. I know it's a big number and it's sort of an exhibition type of format. That's a lot of points to lay, but I did lay it with Oklahoma. I laid it with Creighton, laying 4 here with McDermott. Just I think they'll be motivated because he's retiring after the tournament, after the season. I think they'll be motivated to send him out on a good note here. And I don't think Rutgers is very good. And, Creighton did win at UConn. So Creighton I thought was a decent play. And the last one, I took West Virginia over Stanford. You're catching a 1.5. It's interesting. Both teams went 9-9 in conference. Both teams played in a conference that sent 8 teams to the NCAA tournament. The Big 12 fared okay in the NCAA tournament. The ACC was killed. They went 3-11 against the spread in the tournament. They had no teams make the Final Four. They had only one team make the Sweet 16. They got obliterated. Again, 3-11 in the 14 games against the spread. So I'm just playing the better conference, and I think Ross Hodge is a pretty good, prep X's and O's guys. All the basketball nerds seem to really like Ross Hodge here. So I will take the Mountaineers catching the 1.5. But I mean, if you're going to play these, I would recommend playing them very small. You never want to have that feeling where you bet it, you lose, and you say, man, what the hell did I just bet? What the hell did I just lose my money on? They haven't played in a month. Motivation's questionable. If you told me you just blindly played the overs because it's more of exhibition basketball and there's not going to be the intensity defensively, I wouldn't think that's crazy either, but those are a few that I played.
Well, that's some great handicaps, man. That makes a lot of sense. I'm definitely going to look into these. Yeah, I mean, Colorado, I did see they had some guys in the transfer portal. I did not know that there was 4 guys in there. So I'm going to take a little bit deeper look into this game now that's going to be tonight. But if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys take a deep look into Will Hill, one of the best cappers that I know. Will, could you tell our audience where they can get your great information?
At Not the Will Hill on Twitter, Fox Sports, where I do some write-ups. VSIN, I'm on a few times a week, including Wednesday, 7 to 11 Eastern. I'm on pretty much all weekend. So I'm around, Kev. You can find me. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys check out Will Hill from VSiN and the Shoulda Bet More podcast.